This video is going to demonstrate how students can access the new Canvas testing login for final exams or just for general classroom use. So what we're going to do first is in order for a student to have access to their testing login in Canvas, students will have to know what their username and password is from Canvas. We'd like to think that all the students do remember that, but the one nice thing about Google is the fact that Google saves our passwords, so we don't have to remember that. So you may have some students who may not remember what their username or password is in order to get into Canvas. So what we're going to do first, before I show you how we can actually get into the testing side, is we have to test out our password just to make sure that the students do know that. So what we're going to do is, we're going to go to the main Burlington website, and just by going to Canvas, it's going to redirect them to our Canvas portal. Now, 99.9% of your students are going to have Canvas pull up this information for them. They're going to, have their passwords saved in Google. But what we're going to do is test to make sure that our students actually do know what their username and password is if this stuff was not here. Because when they access the testing profile, this will not pop up. The students will have to type in their username and they'll have to type in their password. So in order to test to see if the students really do know that, what we're going to do is when every student goes into Canvas, this login window is going to pop up. What we're going to have the students do is go ahead and select the password and delete that. And now what the students will do is have them try to type in their password, see if they can remember that. If they type in the wrong password, they're going to get this little message that will pop up: incorrect username and or password. Most of your students are probably going to have one of these different passwords. One password could be their Google password, because many classes on the first day that students were logging into Canvas, many of them set their password as their Google password. Some students who didn't even mess with the password at all and just kept the default password that every student was given, that password would be Rockets123. So you're either going to have your students, most of them, with their Google password or the password Rockets123. Rockets in lowercase, the numbers 1, 2, and 3. If those passwords do not work, then the student at some point change the password to something that's unique just for them. So in order for that student to change that, they can hit Forget Password. And once they do that, it's going to ask them, Canvas will ask what is their email. So they'll type in their student ID number at central301.net and request their password. Instantly, they can go into their mail and they'll have something from Canvas which will direct them to change their password. At that time, I would recommend that students should use the password, their Google password, so that way it's consistent and it's easy to remember. So once the students do that, have them test to make sure that they're able to log in without Google typing in that information for them. So I'm going to delete my password, and I'm just going to check to make sure that I do remember that. And if they're able to log in, then they're good to go and they remember what their username and password is, because they're going to have to know this for the day of the final. It's better to test it out now than on the morning of the final exam when they're already nervous about taking your test. So after we've done that, we're going to have the students log out. And the easiest way to log out of Google is to shut down the computer, at least on their Chromebooks. So if you hold down the power button for 3 to 4 seconds, the entire computer will go black and will shut down. After you give it about a second or so to completely close down, you can hit the power button again, hold it for maybe a second or so, and the computer will then power up. Once that happens, you'll see that there are two profiles that are on each Chromebook. One profile is the student profile, which they would simply type in their own password to get into there, and the now new Canvas testing profile. This testing profile will lock out all websites like Google, YouTube, everything is actually locked down inside the testing profile here, except for things that are, things in Canvas. So as the student clicks on this, they can go ahead and click on Enter to enter the testing portal. And once they do that, this is where Canvas is going to ask them for their username and password. Now the reason why I'm actually or taking a little video of a Chromebook here is because this feature is only available on the student Chromebooks, and because the testing profile will not allow for screenshots or screencasts, I had to film it this way. So if you wanted to test that, you can have students even open up a window and they can go to Google and search, and you can see it's blocked. Going to YouTube is blocked. If a student happens to, let's say they had screenshots of whatever it might be, some students' review sheet, or they have either audio or video files that could help them on the test. If they go and try to search through their files, you can see here that will pop up that they have nothing here. So to get back to the Canvas portal here, you can see that the window, the testing window, is very different than a student's Chromebook and their student profile. Because under a student login and a student profile, you'll see that there are multiple tabs. They would have maybe their Google Drive icon, their Google Docs icon, and other types of things. Because the students are in the testing portal, none of those things are listed here. Also, you'll see something else that's different where it says exit session. This is how students will leave the testing portal. If you happen to come across a student prior to your final or even during your final exam, and you do not see this exit session, or you see a bunch of tabs that are listed here, that means that a student is not actually in the Canvas testing portal and they are using their own profile, which would allow them to have access to Google, YouTube, or any other online resources. So that's an important piece as you monitor your test, to walk around to make sure that you see this tab down on the bottom. So under the username, the students will have to type that in. And you can see once the students log in, they would have access to everything within inside your Canvas page. That would mean that if you have any YouTube clips embedded inside of Canvas, those are actually viewable. If a student tries to access those YouTube clips outside of Canvas, it would lock them out. So some important things: if you do happen to have a video clip of something from YouTube inside of Canvas, make sure that you embed the video inside Canvas and not a link, because a link will not allow students to view that. That's the same with a Google Doc or maybe a Google slide presentation. If you have a link to something, the link will not work. If it's embedded inside of Canvas, whether it's uploaded or copied and pasted into Canvas, that will work. That's viewable by the students. So students can now access your quiz or any other documents or assignment pieces that you have inside of Canvas, but screencasts are locked out, screenshots are locked, they have no access to any of their saved files, they do not have access to Google Drive or any other online resources. They have to stay here inside of Canvas. So the really important things to remember prior to the test: make sure that the students know what their username and password is. As you proctor the test, make sure that when the students are taking their test, that you see this little tab down on the bottom, that you see where it says exit session, or that students do not have some of the multiple Google tabs down below. This tutorial hopefully gave you a good idea about how students can access the testing portal on their Chromebooks, and as soon as they're done, they can exit out of the session and return back to the main page where they can log in and use their student profile to get back into their account.